Jim, the underlining factors you talk about, can they like, I mean, like for me, they like stem from childhood emotional stuff I dealt with. It's like what Katie said really resonated with me about abandonment and surviving childhood. And I do know that, when I wake up in the mornings, it's dark. It's like really weird because all these symptoms um, come up every morning, and I have changed that with like my thinking, but then it'll come back. It's so ingrained. It's like I'll be laying there and I feel my body start to um, get very, you know, nervous, and I feel that tension moving up, just like when I was a child, my stomach churning, the fears and the thoughts you start having. Um, I mean, I'm literally that 9-year old laying there. And it's like you can change it with your thinking, but it's so freaking ingrained because it's been there on and off since 9 years old.
Yeah.
The trauma and what you dealt with as a child, and that's an underlining factor. But how do you? I mean, my God, it's like you do you need psychotherapy to get rid? I mean, it's like it's so ingrained, is all I can say. It's so ingrained that it just my brain automatically goes there. And during my life, there were times that it was better, the anxiety, just like what Katie said, it would get better, and you just dealt with it, from your childhood, your teen years, to your married life, and then you have kids and you're raising them. And but when it comes back, I mean, it comes back with a vengeance, and it's just like you're that little kid again.
Yeah.
So that's like ingrained in your emotions, and I don't know. I mean, it's like that little girl is still there,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. And that's very common, especially when you come from a really challenging background. And there's a lot of factors. This is why we recommend therapy because, when you're doing your therapy work, you'll address those so that you turn them from being emotional events into historical events. And I have to do a lot of that work myself, and most people with anxiety disorder will because they've come from difficult back. Like we don't see anybody who's come from a healthy background struggle with anxiety. So it's behavioral, and we know that our backgrounds set us up for that. But there's a way we can work through that. And so again, this is where the therapist is really helpful to help you understand what those underlying factors are, the role they're playing in your life, where they pop up during the day, how you think about them, and then go after them so that when you've resolved them, you remember them again as being history, but they don't have an emotional component. Because a lot of
Like you
times
don't feel
too,
like you're living them
yeah, that's right.
again.
Yeah, yeah, you remember them that they
Because
happen, but there's not an emotion attached, which makes
I
it
don't know. I don't know how to control it. I mean, it's very daunting. I mean, you're like remembering so much
yeah,
as that child. It's not even like a memory. It's just like you're there.
yeah, yeah,
And I'll actually like see the room and the window. And I mean, I don't know. It's so hard. And as I get older, I mean, like, like I said, you're so busy with life, but when you retire and stuff, I mean, you try to stay busy and stuff. But I mean, it's like when you get older, you feel like you're a little bit more weaker and you're not as strong as you were. And I find myself now struggling with depression and stuff when I had anxiety, horrible, and symptoms, but I never really had like depression. Maybe one time after I had a baby. But I don't know. I don't know how to deal with it. But I do remember you saying to look at it like a movie, or like it's past, and it's your past. It's not there. You're not really there anymore. And when you observe it from the outside of your emotions and not reliving it.
yeah. Personally, I don't think people who have come from backgrounds like that are still with them over many years can actually resolve it on their own because you need an outside perspective to help you put the pieces together. And sometimes a
Yeah.
lot of people with our backgrounds, we don't have anybody to talk to. So we don't even talk about these things. We keep them inside.
Yeah.
because a lot of times when we come up from our backgrounds, our parents weren't very sympathetic, and we learned that you just keep your mouth shut and deal with it. But
Yeah.
at
Well, and
some
I
point,
basically raised myself, so it was
yeah,
like there was nobody to talk to.
yeah. So you became your
Um,
support person, and this is where having outside support is really helpful because now you can vent. Because
yeah.
the other thing that happens is we can become emotionally arrested. What that means is we don't develop past, whatever years that we had the harm done. So we stay that way emotionally until we can process it all and move to the other side. And yes, processing can be emotional, it can be challenging, but it is absolutely freeing. And so that's again another reason why we recommend therapy because so many of us have had horrid experiences.
Yeah, and I know Stacy, we've worked on it a little bit, but haven't quite gotten to it because it seems like every time I talk to him, there's something else going on. The last two
Yeah.
times, it's been like my dog, just trying to get over
Yep.
the grief because it's killing me, and my symptoms are escalated.
Yeah.
They've been that way for several months, and just trying to deal with that. And can I get through this? And it's really sounds ridiculous, it's an animal, but at the same time, you know what I mean. So
Yep.
we haven't really actually gotten into and then I wonder, okay, is that good to do that? Is it good to bring up, like, my friend and even my husband? It's like, that's the past, and
Yep.
you don't need to be talking about that because when you talk about it, it brings it all up. And it's like literally have no one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm literally
Well,
paying somebody to listen to me and
yeah.
to grieve with me and talk to me. That's like with
Yep.
Stacy. I'm literally paying. I have to pay someone
Yeah.
to be my support.
I don't know a lot of, newer therapists don't believe in that, but you know what? People don't make progress unless you deal with it. That's just how it is. Because people can say to you, it's just a past, you have to move on. But those are deep emotional wounds that just stay wounded until
They
you heal them.
do,
Yeah.
and they've
Yep.
wrecked a lot. They've caused so much havoc with,
They do.
and they've just escalated. And the symptoms of, now I've got the last few years. It's been the dizziness symptom, the
Yeah.
balance, walking on a boat, all the other weird stuff that goes with it, and um, which has been a symptom that has really just, it really stopped me in my tracks. But
Yeah.
um,
One thing I wanted to mention too is that unfortunately, a lot of clients don't do that work because they don't want to, because they think if I don't want to dig into that. My body's already stressed. I don't want to dig all that
yeah,
stuff up again. But you know what? It doesn't change though. We still suffer in that area silently. And a lot of times the suffering, we don't even realize we are because it's so buried so deep. But those who do that work, who go through the timelines, talk about those events, feel great relief on the other side. And they say, man, I wish I'd have done this years ago. So I would encourage you to, even though it's difficult, certainly do it. Talk about it, work through it, express yourself the way you can. Because here's the other thing, too. A lot of people think that, what if I get to a place where my emotions are out of control and I can't control them? Well, that's just nonsense. Emotions are fleeting, they come and go. So it's okay to express them and experience them because they will change. And the more work we do on our underlying factors, such as the harm coming from the challenging background, the better we feel about overall things. Then it changes the trajectory of our life too, because a lot of these things hold us back and interfere with our life, and we don't even know it. So I'm a big proponent of doing the work. Yeah, it can be difficult, it can be emotional, but you get on the other side and it's like, wow, I feel free.
why does it make you, like, when I do that, and why does it make your symptoms so bad? Why does it escalate your symptoms in your nervous system whenever you, because right, you will try to avoid it. I mean, I've pushed down emotions for years and years. Like I said, I couldn't even cry at my mom's funeral or when my dad died.
Yeah.
But it's like maybe it's why I've been so upset about my dog, because maybe it's all coming out.
Yeah. Could
And
very well
I'm
be.
thinking, I'm crying so much
Yeah.
the last 2 months, and I haven't cried for years hardly.
Well, that's a good thing
And
to let
but
that
it but
stuff
it
out.
but it makes my symptoms
Yeah.
so bad. I mean, it escalates them, and my nervous system vamps up, and
Sure.
it's just yeah. So why does it do that? I
Well,
mean, is that
emo-
in it damaging more to my?
it's just, because strong emotions will get the nervous system going, just how it does. It kicks in the sympathetic nervous system, diminishing the parasympathetic, and away we go. But if we don't do that, that stuff just sits under the surface. And that's, that's
Causes
the
more
hard part.
damage,
Yeah.
causes more issues, more problems.
Janice, I
Yes.
completely empathize with you. I've lost a friend uh, from suicide some months ago, and I completely feel you to this. I just wanted to give you some
Did
strength that it's gonna get better.
did that
And
spiral you when that happened? Did that spiral you
well,
emotionally and with your symptoms? Because that happened to me last summer. It was just an acquaintance on Facebook, but when that happened, on top of some other stressors, it was like, boy, I went down a dark, deep hole,
yeah, it
and
it spiraled me, but only very, very temporarily because I kept myself really contained. And I'm the type of person, because from my past experience with hyperstimulation, I was like, okay, this triggered a fear in me, this triggered this in me, this triggered that in me. How can I view this differently? Like, I take pens and papers and write down. I don't know if you done that, or your therapist told you
journal.
to do it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
journaling's kind of hard for me. I don't know why.
no, I
Uh,
mean, taking specific things, like, let's say, fear of abandonment, go through it and, let's say, write down, if you're able to do it, obviously, but write down, okay, I'm afraid of abandonment. What's the
yeah,
worst case scenario if I get abandoned? What am I truly afraid? To
and
find the
I
core
do
fear,
that. I do that.
and
I
then
do.
find statements. Yeah, but the important thing is to find statements that are convincing for you and are going to help you to
And
heal that.
that's what I've
That's the
asked Jim
important part.
about. Sometimes I've asked Jim, there's a, like, my core fear, that just, I think, keeps me, my recovery really pushed back, is my core fear is, like a lot of people's, I'm never going to get well. I'm going to end up bedridden. People have to take care of me. And I can't seem to find a good containment statement for that, for those. I mean, it's like, what do you
You can
say?
challenge that. You can challenge that. You can say that, the body has some symptoms for some reasons, and if I eliminate the reasons for the symptoms, it's inevitable I'm gonna get better. Or you can say, look at all these other people that are suffering. What are the chances that what they're doing is just straight lies? Like, nobody would lie about such things, right? And
Yeah.
you can also go at it by saying, hey, I've noticed because for sure you had some glimpses left and right where maybe you were really calm, like maybe even if
Uh
it was
huh.
for 20 minutes or something, and you notice
Yeah.
some symptom relief, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I mean, I'm kind
so
of like you. I used to be calm more. I'm calm more in the evening, but my symptoms aren't any better in the evening. But I'm more calmer,
yeah,
um, emotionally. But my
yeah,
symptoms are
that's
not. It's weird.
But you've also
it's
had
the
that
cortisol
loss.
cycle. Yeah,
You've also had
exactly.
that loss of your animal, which is emotionally stressful, right?
Yeah, and Stacy says, he says you got to understand that you're grieving, but it's just like I've grieved for animals before, but this one has been just heartbreaking. I don't even want to
Yeah.
go to bed in the bed where he slept in with me, and then making the bed in the morning is hard, and your routine is gone, and
Yeah.
um, with your little animal, and we've got a big dog. He's right here.
Oh, yes.
And so we got him 2 weeks before she passed, and it's like, can I deal with this? Because it was supposed to be my husband's responsibility somewhat, but no, this animal's mine now. And so, with my symptoms and everything I have, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, can I deal with another animal, a large one? And it's just all these. But see, that's worry, and
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like you said, yeah, the grieving. Um, I don't know. It's like, when do you finally? It's just making everything worse. I don't know how to
Yeah.
get past this, uh with my little dog. I don't know how to get past it.
Well, you will. You want to look forward to that. And grieving takes its own course. You want to be patient with yourself as you grieve. And I'm certain as you work with Stacy about, the grief and what's going on and what it triggered and all that, you will come to a better place. So, as I mentioned to others, in the meantime, give yourself grace. There's no straight trajectory. It's how we process information. And I'll bet this is going to uncover some of those deeper areas that's really going to help you overall as well.
I think the worst part about all of it is just the thinking process, the memory. You think about. when you were holding her and she died in your arms. And I don't do death very well.
Mm.
And it's like lately, as I'm getting older now, I'm waking up in the mornings too with these fear and the realization of suffering because I'm older. I'm getting old and people are passing away. I only have like two childhood friends left. But it's like, I don't know, my memories will not let go. It's like, I'm actually now more afraid of dying. I'm afraid of the fact that, okay, you know what? Everybody dies. I'm going to have to do this someday. And
Yeah.
I'm not good. I'm not good with stuff like that. I'm never been one to like to ride roller coasters and crazy rides and things that I've never been an explorer in that way.
Yeah.
I don't like the unknown.
Yeah.
Even
And
though I know Christ, I know Jesus, and it's still something that is unknown, no matter how our spiritual belief is, and knowing we're going to go to heaven, because of Jesus, we're still going to have to do it, and it's still
yeah.
unknown.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
there's doubt there too. Sometimes likes to creep in, and
Yeah.
you got to work with that. And I mean, it's all such an emotional, mental roller coaster. All this is.
And there's a lot of pieces you just mentioned, so you can see why, the
Hmm.
grieving process right now is a bit difficult for you. There's a
Yeah,
lot of fears going on.
yeah,
You know,
but,
my wife and I, we lost all of our parents within a space of 5 years, and some of them didn't go very nicely. And so there are some traumatic moments there. And as my wife and I age, we realize that we're going to have our own issues when we're starting to have them now that we have to deal
mhm.
with. But again, uh, what's helped me, of course, is my faith for sure. But what's also been very helpful in the last 4 years is my research into near-death experiences. Um,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
been quite amazing when you hear people who have gone to the other side for a little bit and come back. None of them are afraid of dying. They say it's just like slipping out of a glove. It's no big deal. And there's a
yeah,
lot. And so while the process may not be nice as we go out, again, we know it's temporary. And we definitely know for certain what's on the other side now. It doesn't have to be a mystery. In fact, I posted a video in the NDE section in the Recovery Support Area, Chapter 11, with Dr. Sam Parnia talking about his latest research. It came from about 4 months ago. And he entered that arena as a skeptic. He has a very
hmm,
scientific view of what they are, and he did clinical research on them. And now his opinion is completely different. He knows that the consciousness survives death. He knows
yeah,
that there's much more after. And
yeah.
so, we don't have to worry about what's next. So you can, eliminate that fear on the other side. So that's one big fear, to get rid of that. So when you look at our intrinsic fears or instinctive fears, the one that most people struggle with is the pain and suffering, right?
That's probably the main one for me. The
Yeah,
debilitating, being debilitated, and because for one thing, when you don't have much support at home and nobody really
yeah,
understands, and then you feel like if you ever become that way, are you going to be taken care of? Are people just
yeah,
going to, because your debilitation is not like, oh, well, she was diagnosed with MS or she was diagnosed with ALE or something. I mean, instead, this is something mentally can be debilitating. And I saw it
yeah,
with my father because this is where I got my behavior. My father was mentally, ill and had to be VA mental hospitals, and they divorced when I was 9. But I'm just saying that's where I saw the behavior. And talking about benzos, my when they first started those, the VA would give my dad this like giant. I remember it was a big pill a Valium,
yeah,
and I don't think they realized about addictions and stuff. And I saw my dad go through a lot, and he had it was just yeah, and he had health anxiety and depression, and he ended up putting himself in the VA mental hospital sometimes. And then that scares you because you think, am I going to get that bad? Is it like nobody understands? There's not anybody to fall back on.
yeah. Well,
Um,
that's not actually accurate because there are therapists who understand exactly what you're going through and can help you get to the other side.
yeah, that's true. I mean, like with
Yeah,
Stacy, yeah, like I was saying, it's kind of sad that I have to pay somebody to
yeah.
to
I,
talk to.
I think it's sad
Um,
that these mental health bills aren't being paid for by a government entity. Because, there's a lot of, health organizations that will pay for your physical ailments, but a lot of people suffer with the mental stuff first that causes the physical. So if there was support to help people work through the mental health, we'd be in a much healthier society, I think.
Yeah, and they are finding out now that a lot of these symptoms that people have are caused from
Yep.
the brain and trauma, and like you
Yep.
said, just um, yeah, and that if they worked more on the mental health part, the healthcare system, they wouldn't be paying as much money
Yep.
for people with all these ailments and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, so and you were talking about too. I listened to a lot of success stories, or people that have gotten through it and everything, and most of it pertains to the dizziness part, but there's so many symptoms too. Like on the steady coach, I was telling you about her, where they have
Yep.
these people have all these other symptoms, and they're all anxiety related, attached to
Yep.
that symptom.
Yep.
And there was one success story where the guy had it 4 years, 24/7,
Yep.
and he finally figured out it was the brain and his behavior and the fear generating it.
Yep.
And within 2 or 3 months, he was like at a 90% better after 4 years of suffering.
Yep.
But he had to work, like you said, with a lot of underlining things in his behavior and,
Yep.
what caused it. But he finally learned that, this is the brain. The brain is causing these symptoms, and how we're thinking. So he said that until you 100% not fear anymore this symptom, it will not go away. He said, you have to stop fearing and you have to believe that it's not something physiological wrong with you.
Yep.
And that's hard because all these symptoms are so real.
They
And
are.
they
Yeah.
are real.
Yeah. But this is again where our containment comes into play. If we know there are symptoms of stress and we know they're temporary, and
Yeah.
if we do the right work, they will go away. So there is no risk of them not disappearing. The only risk is that if we don't ever do the work, right?
Yeah.